We are Heather and Paul Christie.
And for over 12 years, we've worked with executives and entrepreneurs to accelerate change in every aspect of their business.
Because we are in the fastest paced business environment that anyone has ever seen before.
So join us for the Evolve to Win show. Hi, and welcome to another Evolve to Win show with Heather and Paul.
And our special guest today is Connor Gilligan. Welcome, Connor.
Hey, Connor.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on today.
Well,
No
we're
problem.
super excited to have you because Connor is a young serial entrepreneur. When I say young, he's younger than we are, but oh my gosh, what you have accomplished, Connor, by the time you were 20. I mean, I was still in school when you probably made your first $1 million. So Connor right now is the CMO for a company called, is it Free Up, right?
Yep, correct.
It's with 3 E's, though.
Free Up, right. Free with 3 E's, Free Up. And the reason that you really want to hear this podcast is that Connor has created a business really through freelancers. And I can't tell you how many clients we work with who are doing things they just shouldn't be doing. So they're so busy and they don't have time to focus on the most important things. Freelancing is something that you really need to know more about. If you're not currently an expert in how to use freelancers to free up your time, up your time, you definitely want to know, Connor.
And I know we've used plenty of 1099 freelancers for our various jobs that we've had throughout our business life. And I'm really interested in finding out from Connor, how did you get into, and what made you decide to get into the freelance type of business?
Yeah, sure. So it kind of follows an entire story, right? So I started my first business while I was still in college. I met my business partner there. We started working together. We still work together today. The first business was buying and selling products on Amazon. So we went around to brands and manufacturers in the United States. We said, listen, Amazon's going to be a big deal in the next 5 years. We know about it.
You were right about that.
Yeah,
right?
you got that one right. What year was this that you were going out looking for those?
This was 2009, 2010 when we started.
So you're
almost,
early in the game.
Yeah, almost about 10 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
So we go out to these people. We say, listen, we know about Amazon. You don't. Let us help you sell there. We start to sign up manufacturers and brands, and they allow us to sell their products, which is great. We start to build that business, and we eventually ran into a place where we realized we couldn't do everything. Mm-hmm. And neither myself nor my business partner had a technical expertise, so we weren't building software or programs that was going to help us. And so that's when we turned to hiring. And we first hired full-time and part-time employees. We learned from that.
W-2 employees.
W-2 employees.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. So we learned from that. We saw that, hey, there's ways they're effective, but we might not be fully using all of the money we're investing in them. Uh-huh. And then we were introduced to the idea of freelancers and outsourcing independent contractors. Mm-hmm. We had never known about it before. And we started using sites like Upwork and Fiverr.com and Freelancer.com. And that's really how we got into the whole world. We spent about 2 years hiring a team of about 30 freelancers to help us run the business. But it took us a lot to get there. I think we had to hire 100 and fire 70 of them because we were just learning about the whole hiring process.
Wow, the lessons you've learned. And we have learned some of those lessons sort of painfully ourselves. And
right.
And what's really good is when you do learn from those lessons, at least in our case, we've set up different systems within our business. We pay contracts in our way, not in the freelancer's way. I mean, we've learned a lot about what not to do. But I'm just really interested in, well, let's back up for a second. There are companies out there, there are entrepreneurs out there who have never used a freelancer, and they may not even know what we're talking about when we talk about Upwork, when we talk about getting a 1099 freelancer. So let's back up and would you mind just sharing what that actually means and what that looks like? Pretend that you're talking to somebody who's they didn't even know this was available. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I think the easiest way to explain it is the difference between a W-2 employee and then a 1099 contractor. So your W-2 employee is your traditional hire. You're going to hire them for part-time or full-time work. They're going to come into your office. They're going to work with you on a day-to-day basis. You're going to pay them an hourly rate or a salary. And then you're also responsible for workers' comp, eventually health insurance, potentially retirement plans, things along those lines. When you're talking about an independent contractor, this is a individual that has a specific skill set and is working with a number of different businesses, usually offering their services. And you're simply hiring them at an hourly rate that you agree to. It's not anything that's ongoing. You could hire them for a 2-month project and then take a break and hire them again. And you're not responsible for the workers' comp, the health insurance, and then also the retirement benefits. So it has pluses and minuses when you look at both sides.
And so these 1099s, they typically are expert in their niched area of what they do. This is the other thing that's really kind of cool is you find people who have an expertise and it's all they do. So a very specific niche. And in some of these sites, and I want to hear a little bit more about FreeUp too, since we haven't used your site in full disclosure. But in sites like Upwork, you have the ability to look at reviews. So people who employ these 1099s will give them a certain star rating and will share information about what it was like to work with them. So the more research you do to really look at who you're hiring, and obviously people with the higher stars tend to put their prices up a little bit more, and it's one of those, you get what you pay for. But there are a lot of times where you have newer freelancers or they're just not proven, they don't have enough ratings yet. So you could get an absolute rock star who hasn't been rated yet, so their prices aren't up because they just want to get the good reviews, right?
Yeah, completely agree. We found some of those rock stars, but I would say that it takes a lot of time to sift through the madness and find those people. Definitely.
Sure. And I think the important thing about a freelancer to a W-2 employee, this really comes down to one word: it's control, right? So with a W-2, you do have control. You can ask them to be at meetings. You can ask them to be somewhere specifically. They have to show up for work every day. Whereas a freelancer is their own business, and you're just trusting that they're going to do a great job for you, and they're going to do it in the time that they or the time that they said they would complete the project. So,
which doesn't always happen.
Yeah, that
right?
doesn't always happen. But in our experience, we've had the relationships that you can build with good freelancers. They're looking for great relationships too. They're looking to work with good people. So it's really the ultimate in capitalism, I have to say. I mean, you have people that are being paid for a specific job, and they have to deliver on that, and they're rated on it. So it's a really cool concept, and I'm this is just such a really interesting time. How excited are you, Connor, about living in this day and age? Getting out of college, starting your business, and tell us a little bit about maybe what were some of the first businesses that you tried.
Yeah, of course. So the one that was selling on Amazon was that first business.
Oh, it was, okay.
Is that the one you built to a 60-person team?
Correct. Yeah.
So you were 20 years old. You're still in college. You've got 60 people working for you. You're partnered with over 1,000 U.S. suppliers, and you sell over $20 million in product. Do we have these stats right?
That is all correct. Yeah, okay. over about a 3-4 year span, we built it up to do all of that. So we graduated from college. We decided to make that our full-time job instead of looking for a 9-to-5 or a corporate job. And yeah, we pursued that. We worked our butts off and kind of created that future for ourselves. So it was great.
And what were some of the lessons that you learned starting that young, and just about working with older people, working with
like you?
Business plans? Yeah, like me, like her.
Yeah, there were a couple things that come to mind. The first was how much you have to build trust with people when you're first starting a business. We found that to be difficult, but we found ways to spin it to excite people. So we were younger, we were in our 20s. So, going to the biggest manufacturer out there, it made no sense for them. They were like, okay, here's a couple guys in college. Sure, they seem like they know what they're doing, but we'd rather work with someone who is more established and has a more professional business. But for a lot of the small to medium-sized manufacturers, we were able to go to them and almost tell them our story. So we'd say, hey, we are young entrepreneurs. We're hungry though. We know a lot about Amazon. We'd love to work with you. We're going to make you more sales, and we're going to make it really easy for you to work with us. So we use that story, and we really had to build that trust. And that's something we've really taken forward to the second business, is making sure that when you're first introducing yourselves to a new market, you're professional, you're prepared, you have a good story, and you try to catch them with something that would entice them to want to work with you. So I think that was one of the biggest lessons, was how you have to present yourself as a professional.
Well, I think it's a great lesson in influence, right? I mean, you had to be at such a young age, a major influencer to get all of these companies, you have 1,000 US companies, to allow you to take over and market their product. I think it's a really big deal. So you did it by really building trust. You used your story. And I'm guessing there was a whole lot of passion that showed up for people in how you portrayed yourself. Is that right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We loved it. We were so excited that we could graduate college, not go to a regular corporate job. And we loved what we were doing. We were just learning every day. We went through a lot of failures that we learned from. I mean, it was just a constant up and down of running the business, because we were so young and didn't really know what we were doing, but it was exhilarating at the same time.
And what year did you graduate?
2012.
Okay. So we were still 4 years, well, maybe 3 years out of the recession. So there weren't a ton of opportunities as far as corporate jobs and things like that. So do you think that you would have done this no matter what, or was it because of the economy at that time?
Yeah, great question. So I think I would have done it no matter what. I've always been someone that was more inclined towards entrepreneurship and having control over my professional career. From a young age, my mother was a full-time editor freelancer. So I got to see her run her own business. And then my father was an engineer. He worked for GE for about 35 years, just recently retired. So he did have that corporate type of life. But I also had cousins who started their own business. And that was my first job, was working with a cousin who had started his own landscaping business. So entrepreneurship was always an idea that was floated around in my family. And it wasn't something that was, kind of pushed off as a far-flung move that someone would make. It was always an option. So I think I would have always headed in that direction.
Got it.
And did you bootstrap this business, or did you end up raising capital?
Bootstrap. Yeah. So we just bought a product for $5, made our margin, put it back into the business, bought more products, sold more, etc. And we've done the same with FreeUp as well.
And did you have a mentor who really helped you understand this business, or did you literally just learn as you went along?
Yes, absolutely did. After we graduated from college, so in college, we had a few professors that took a liking to us and were interested in the business, and we met with them on a regular basis. And then after we graduated college, we moved to Orlando, Florida, and I myself started just going onto LinkedIn and trying to find entrepreneurs who had been running businesses or had been involved in investing over the past. And I just invited them to buy them a coffee, to take them out to lunch. And that brought together a group of about 5 mentors that I met with on a bi-monthly basis. And they were all amazing people, were really able to help us learn. And I still keep in touch with them today.
Wow. That's really amazing that you just took it upon yourself and started inviting people for coffee. I mean, of course, there are so many different ways of doing it, and you can seek to hire professionals, but you found people who inspired you, and you reached out and they said yes, and they helped you.
Yeah. And again, it comes back to that. What's your story? What's your passion? How do you connect with them to almost give them some nostalgia, bring them back to when they were young and building a business, and get them to like what we're doing, and then help us along the way as well.
Got it. One of the things that we were talking about is that on occasion we have in our executive coaching business, we have clients that have children that are in college or just out of college in their early 20s, and they want to have a little bit of coaching. They want to get a little coaching for them because they're struggling with, just what do they want to do? How do they want to, take on the world? And what advice would you give, somebody coming out of college or in college right now about how to get started and how to get motivated, how to get just, the gumption, whatever it takes, right?
Yeah, of course. So the first piece of advice is don't follow the dollar sign. I think throughout college and even in high school, all you heard about was the highest paying jobs and the highest paying industries that you could potentially get into. But if you have no passion for those industries or those jobs, you're going to end up being miserable and you're going to hate the corporate job life. So, don't follow the dollar sign. In those months as you're looking to graduate or as you've just graduated, my advice is to really think deeply about what you're passionate about, what you care a lot about, and what you could see yourself waking up every day and being happy to go work on. So that could be a corporate job and it's in an area that you're just super interested. Or if you're more of a go-getter yourself and you maybe have a certain skill set or you'd like to develop one, find some courses, find some ways to learn that on your own and start to practice it. And of course, we're in this lovely freelancing economy. So there's plenty of opportunities where you could take on clients, maybe even offer them free services at first just to get some experience. And then you could build that into a business. So, find those passions and figure out what you care about the most and then go after that.
Got it. And so if somebody is interested in maybe starting a side business
and becoming a freelancer,
or while they're in, college or university, they can go to free up with 3 E's, up.com. And you can, is that where somebody can, what do they have to do to become a freelancer, approved freelancer through Freed Up?
Yeah, great question. So that is one of the ways we're a little bit different from the other websites. And we did it purposely because we had a lot of frustration as business owners when we would post a job and get 20 plus people applying. It took us a lot of time to actually interview them and figure out who the right person was. And so with Free Up, we set it up so that we recruit and interview hundreds of freelancers every single week. And then we only allow the top 1% into the network after they've gone through this application, interview, and testing process.
Oh, so you're actually filtering these freelancers for us so that we have to do much less work when we're hiring these freelancers because you've already put them through a rigorous testing process. How do you do it? How do you find the top 1%?
Yes. So we do a lot of marketing that brings in freelance applications. We then have them first fill out an application that gives a lot of their online portfolio, their resume, their past experience, and then they answer some questions about why they're interested in joining. Kind of talks about their freelance interests. Then we have a one-on-one interview with people that make it past that first stage. And then we dive a lot more into their skills. So if someone says they're great at social media, we have a rubric of questions that goes really deep into that area that they say they have. And then if someone makes it past that interview, there's a final best practices test that really dives into communication methods and ways of working with clients, just to see how professional they are and to see if they know how to communicate, since that's super important when you're working remotely with people. And then the top 1% comes out of that final test. So that's our process as of right now.
So that's really a part of your unique selling proposition as well, right? As far as really filtering out the best of the best.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about saving business owners that time that they would have to do it themselves. And we have 6+ years of experience hiring and vetting. So we kind of consider ourselves experts to be able to do that for businesses.
That's awesome.
Excellent. Okay, I have a random question for you. I just saw a post on one of my threads the other day where we had in one of our industry associations that we're heavily engaged in, the National Speakers Association, I saw someone put a post on there, who knows a freelancer who's an SEO expert? And this is the one question that no one has ever been able to answer, or someone's holding on real tight and doesn't want to share the information. So totally putting you on the spot, but do you have one?
Oh yeah.
You do?
We have plenty. Yeah. We have SEO experts. I mean, we have freelancers. We have over 1,000 freelancers that we've pre-vetted, and they offer over 85 different skills.
Wow.
So yeah, you could really come to us for anything to hire a freelancer for.
Awesome. Okay. So we're going to be talking offline here. Tell us, in your opinion, you've got someone who maybe they're working in a corporate job right now and just not feeling satisfied. Maybe they did what you talked about earlier, is they followed the dollar signs and found out it wasn't their passion. What are the characteristics that you believe make somebody a great entrepreneur?
Great question. Okay. So the first is you have to be for lack of a better term, you have to be a hustler. You have to be someone that is constantly on the grind and always finding new ways to build your business. You can't rely on other people. So you have to be finding different ideas, testing them out, seeing if they work. If they don't, push them away. If they work, move forward with them. So you really want to be someone that's always working hard and putting in those hours. I've been doing this for 10 years and I still work 60 to 70 hours a week, because that's just a part of being an entrepreneur. You have to bust it at all times.
Yeah. And one thing I want to add to what you just said, I think that's such a critical aspect of being an entrepreneur, is being that go-getter. It also means you've got to be willing to fail, right? Because as you said, you've got to keep trying different strategies and find out what works and what doesn't work. And there are a lot of people who may be really, really talented, but they're so afraid of getting it wrong that anything that looks or smells like a failure is just not in their repertoire. So you've really got to be willing to put yourself out there and get it wrong so that you can figure out how to get it right. Right? Yeah,
that's huge. You need to, the entrepreneur, a great entrepreneur in my mind too, has a lower tolerance for, or they don't need security as much, and they view risk more as calculated risk. Okay. So it's not, hey, this is a huge risk for me, I could lose it all. It's more like you take small calculated risks towards certain goals, and then you can make your way forward, or you take a small step back and then the next calculated risk jumps you forward. So it's kind of a different mindset, whereas someone who's much more towards security, they see anything outside of that secure bubble that they have as a huge risk, and they don't even want to go after it.
Yeah, got it.
What would you say? Well, just speaking of being an entrepreneur and everything, what do you think about, Connor, as far as when you're setting up your business? How important is understanding financials, or getting the right person on your team that understands the financials? A lot of risk and reward comes from, we used to say when people start their businesses, a lot of people start businesses, they go out and they buy brand new cars, they go out and buy brand new office furniture, and we say they go, we use the term pimp your ride.
Right.
And then which doesn't leave any money for operating costs. What is your view? What did you learn about finances? How important it is when you're
we learned a lot from that with the first business. So we took most of the profits from the first business and invested it right back into the company. Almost not putting any into savings and not putting a lot into our own pockets, because we were that passionate about growing the business. And we were in our early 20s and we had super low costs personally.
Right.
So a big lesson we learned was it's really smart to divvy up your profits as you're making them into pretty much 3 buckets. So you give yourself some money so that in the worst case scenario that this business fails, you personally have something to fall back on. You give some to the business as savings. So you create a little rainy day fund. And I think the general rule of thumb would be like 6 months operating costs, so that if you ever went through an issue, you could dip into that while you're getting things figured out. And then the remainder of it, you can invest back into the business, whether that be other intelligent people that can help you in areas where you're not that smart, or it's investing into, software or technology, things that could help your specific type of business. So that's the understanding we've come to over time, but it took a lot of lessons learned to get there.
Yeah.
Well, I am beyond impressed that you are at that stage and have that level of, financial strategy that you do. It took us it took us a good 5-6 years, I want to say, before we really, really started understanding this whole idea of putting money in buckets. And,
Right.
it's really funny is we had a chairman of one of the companies we used to work with. We used to be in a franchise, and our chairman, Brett Sugars, told us one day at conference, he's like, how many of you have a profit account? And we're all looking around at each other like, I don't have a profit account. I don't really have any profit in my business, right? And he said, the reason you don't have profit in your business is because you don't have a profit account. So you spend it like it's an operating expense, right? You just like, if you have the money there, you spend it. Sure. So we're like, oh, that makes so much sense. So the first thing we did outside of that conference is we went out, we opened our profit account. I want to say we put $50 in it, right? Yeah. And that $50 sat there for 5 years or something like, I mean, I don't know, maybe it was only 2 years, but we opened our account and then we did nothing with it. And I know that there are so many, smaller.
Yeah, but we didn't spend that $50.
We did not, because they would have closed out the account. Right. So after 2 years' time, it was like $50.01, right? Yeah. But what's really cool now is we have adopted a very similar strategy to you. We've got our profit account, right? And that goes into our investments, the capital investments that get made in the company. We have our tax account, so that at the end of the year, when we've got the big tax bills that come in, we've got the cash set aside so we're not stressed out. I mean, how many people...
Yeah. That's so smart.
They're so excited they made all this money, and then they get the tax bill. They're like, and then they yell at their accountant, "Why didn't you tell me?" Right? But then we also have that savings account as well. And one of the rules, I want to ask you about this too. One of the rules that I heard really early on in business is always make sure that you pay yourself first, right? Make sure that you get an income. So we have always taken an income from our business from the day that we started. Yeah. Were you the same way? Did you take an income in the beginning, or did you have a while where you just kept investing back in the business?
We did. We always took an income, but it was very, very small. Yeah. So I think we could have been smarter with how much we were paying ourselves to support ourselves a little bit more. Okay. And something we eventually came around to understanding was we, at the end of the day, are the business. Mm-hmm. So if we personally can't function and live our life comfortably, then it's going to hurt the business in certain ways too. Yeah, so that was a big understanding we eventually came to.
Great point.
I would like to ask another question, and maybe you might share some of our tragic experiences in hiring freelancers when we first didn't really know what we were doing. I would really love to hear from you, Connor, what some of your top tips are in how you hire, how you contract a freelancer.
How someone like us would hire.
How a business owner, an entrepreneur, or by the way, somebody who's in corporate. I think too many people in corporate don't even think about this idea of hiring freelancers because they're stuck in their box of, they're so used to working with W-2 employees. So whether you're in corporate or whether you're an entrepreneur, top tips for hiring a freelancer. How do you contract for that?
Yeah, great question. So I'm a very systems and processes mind person. So I'll kind of walk you through the process that I would utilize.
Okay.
So the first thing, and you had mentioned this earlier, was freelancers usually specialize within a certain task or a certain area of the business. So the first thing that I would encourage someone to do is list out all of the things that you're doing within your business, those specific tasks that are helping you to grow or helping you to operate. And then from there, you can choose one that you'd like to take off your plate. So a simple example, everyone's running a business, everyone has to be on social media. It takes you a couple hours every day to run your social media. Could that be something you could pass off to someone else so you could stay focused on different things, right? So let's say we choose social media as our skill set to go after. The second thing when hiring a freelancer is you want to be very specific about who you're looking for. And a lot of details go into that. So how many hours per week would you like them to work? Do you care where they're located? Because there's freelancers everywhere. What time zone would you like them to work on? A lot of people want them on, their Eastern or wherever they're living. What is your budget for that person's hourly rate or a fixed rate per week or per month? And then, other ways of how can they communicate with me? So, those are a few things that it's good to hammer those down. So when you go to the next step and you're finding people and you're interviewing them, you're not just talking to someone and saying, hey, can you run my social media? you're going through these questions, and then anyone that doesn't match up, it's a red flag, move on to the next one. Because there's going to be a lot of options out there. So yeah, so you go through that process, you know who you want, you do the interview, and then once you actually hire someone, you want to make sure that you set those expectations. So how are you going to communicate together? Do you want them to check in with you every time they start working with you, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of my process from start to end in hiring a freelancer.
All right. So I like it. First of all, that the first piece is really getting clarity on what do you want, right? And I think this is where a lot of people miss the boat, is that they don't get enough clarity on the results that they're after. And especially, like, take social media as an example. What are the specific measurable results? Like, how are you compensating somebody?
Yep.
You know, are you measuring engagement? Are you measuring number of followers? There are many different ways, many different measurements. That's the great thing about social media. That you can tell whether or not you're building, this community, this platform. And when it comes to contracting and actually paying, do you recommend that people pay by the hour, or do you recommend that people pay by the result generated?
Sure. So I've always been someone that pays by the hour. Okay. I think doing it by result generated is more difficult, and it also leads to a more confusing relationship between you and the freelancer. I've seen it done, and I've seen people, set up monthly or based off of output-based pay. But I personally have always seen the best with hourly, because both parties know what they're getting. I know what I'm paying. They know what they're getting paid. As long as we're both happy with that, then we can focus on the relationship and focus on having them help to build the business.
Got it. And so as long as your criteria for what they're going to accomplish within the hours, so let's say you have a monthly retainer type of agreement or weekly retainer, that what they do every single day or week or month is very clearly outlined, so that you do have some level of, quality control and measurement, right?
Of course. Yeah. And you want to, even with hiring a freelancer, just like hiring a W-2 employee, someone that sits right next to you, you as the business owner have responsibilities to manage them and to lead them. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you can just hire this person and they're going to go off running and building your business. You need to keep them involved, teach them about your culture, let them understand the processes you've used in the past that have been successful, meet with them on a regular basis, and keep pushing them along, just like you would someone that is coming into your office on a daily basis.
And I think people probably mess that up regularly, right? Is they think that because it's a freelancer and, you're an expert in your area and you run your own business, they abdicate rather than delegate the role that they want completed. So that's...
I would also say in the hiring process or interviewing process, one of the things that we've learned too, and this is just a personal thing, that we like to do a face-to-face. So whether it's by Skype or Zoom or whatever, there just seems to be a different level of connection to be able to see somebody's eyes and their face, and especially if you're going to have them work for you. You would do that if you were going to hire them as a W-2. Yep. You wouldn't just talk to somebody on the phone all the time. You would somehow, some way get to meet them face to face. And I think our best results have come from people that we've had initial conversations with through like video. And then I think the other thing too is, as the project is going forward and it goes on for months, maybe years on end, to make sure that you have those times that you have conversations. So if it's a weekly check-in or it's bi-weekly or even monthly, making sure that you have those scheduled, and so that there are no unfulfilled expectations.
Yeah, totally agree. That's been huge for us. And I've been working with some freelancers for over 6 years, and I have an amazing relationship with them now. I've actually gone and met them in person, met their families, and you can create a great relationship with people, even though it's completely remote. You just need to make sure that you're committed to that as much as you are to wanting them to just do all of the work for you.
Yeah.
Totally. Do you ever get challenged by having a freelancer who's so good that they end up taking on too much work, and they're not giving you either the amount of service that you need or the level of service because they continue to take on new clients?
Sure. Great question. It's definitely happened before. I try to avoid those situations as much as possible by just keeping in touch with them and understanding what their other clients are and letting them know that I need them on this certain amount of regular basis. But I think that happens. I would say, especially for freelancers that have been in it maybe 6 months to a year, they have a good confidence in their skill set. They've worked with a good number of clients, and now they're getting to that point where they're maxing out their hours because they keep getting more interest from clients. And they're a little bit overwhelmed. They're like, ooh, there's a lot of opportunity here. I know that I can do it, but they eventually realize that they only have so many hours in the day. And at that point, I encourage them to hire another freelancer and then have them help you run your business as well.
So how does your revenue model work now at freeup.com? Does the client pay you for finding these freelancers, or how does that all work out?
Yeah, great question. So we as FreeUp act as the billing intermediary between the business owner and the freelancer. So our billing periods run from Wednesday through Tuesday of each week. Freelancers can bill clients in each week. And then on each Thursday, clients are billed for the hours that their freelancers charge them. They pay us, FreeUp. And then the following Thursday, we pay the freelancers the amount minus 15%. And that's how we make our money.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
Got it.
Good.
Cool.
If there were one other leadership lesson that stands out for you in starting a business at such a young age, multiple businesses, you're still running 2 businesses, right?
No, just FreeUp now.
FreeUp is you've gone
stopped the first about a year ago.
Okay, got it. When you think back in all the lessons that you've learned and you think about your own leadership, what's the top lesson that you've learned that you'd want to share with the audience?
So biggest thing is develop a personal relationship as well as a professional relationship with anyone you work with. I did this, and me and my business partner have been focused on this since we started our first business, because we were always interested by company culture and values and missions and visions. And we found that people stay with us longer. They become super committed to the company, and they'll also go above and beyond for us and the business because we have that personal connection with them as well. So I think that's a huge piece of leadership that not too many people focus on at first.
Yeah. And especially in the freelance world, look, I mean, people may look at that as a less personal type of employee relationship, but it shouldn't be, right? It should be just, this person is still an employee of yours and they're still going to be producing or not. And the stronger that personal relationship, the more trust and respect and rapport that you have there, obviously the more influence you have and the better they're going to work for you, right?
Yeah, completely agree.
Great lesson.
Great. Well, thank you for watching and listening to another Evolve to Win show with Heather and Paul. And we had Connor Gilligan on from freeup.com, who is an awesome guest and has an incredible business model and opportunity.
Connor, if people want to get in touch with you, where do they go?
Sure. So head over to freeup.com. And as you guys have been saying, it is with 3 E's, FREEEUP.com. And right at the top, there's a schedule a meeting button. You can schedule a meeting right with myself or my business partner. And then if you just want to reach out to me via email, it's just connor@freeup.com.
Awesome. Well, as always, it's been a pleasure. Connor, so great to get to meet you. And I'm not kidding when I say I'm going to schedule some time outside of this call. We're going to do it today.
Absolutely.
Really excited to hear more about your business. And I'm thrilled that you found us and reached out to us. So thanks so much for taking that initiative and staying in touch with us so that you could be a guest on our show. And to our listeners, thanks for being with us today. If you haven't yet connected with us on social media, please do so. Or you can find us at evolveglobal.com. And again, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Connor.
Have a great day.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great day.